Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Alana here. Welcome back to 3 Degrees of Love Divination. So I just wanted to jump on. As you can see, I already have cards that are in front of me laid out. This is actually a reading that I started last night, and I actually tend to read this way. I don't know if it's just because I use a lot of cards or a lot of the time, but I'm able to start and stop readings and still be able to be in flow. And I guess the way my mind works, I still usually remember, and even if I don't, it's very easy to go back and refresh myself. But anyways, so I don't know how other tarot readers read, and if that sort of works for them or not, but that's kind of how I read. I've been reading, I should say. Anyways, so with that being said, I kind of just wanted to get back because there's a lot of things that are sort of flowing through my mind. And if you follow me on Instagram, the very top cards here that I pulled from the Untamed Spirit Oracle, and this is by Red Wheel. Anyways, I had posted just the 4 cards at the very top on my Instagram, and it kind of, when I pulled the cards, it rang the alarm bells to me as a confirmation to the previous video I did, Cup of Love for the Collective, that I just posted on Sunday. If you haven't checked that out, it will be in the description. It's on my channel, of course. But anyways, so as I receive messages, I pull from things that I see in my, and observations I see in my everyday life and stuff like that. And one of the things that that I guess with me is that when I'm trying to explain things, and for me to be able to get the message across, and for people to understand what it is that I'm basically trying to say, I tend to relate it to something that I've already seen. On TV and movies and things like that, or even read, right? One of the bittersweet things of living like a real life hermit, as I've said before. But anyways, so what I've pulled so far, and this is just kind of how I free read, and I basically use multiple decks, and I layer them on top as supporting the messages. So we started off with the crane, the tiger, the butterfly, and the wolf. And you know what? Let me just dissect, and then I'll go, and then I will continue pulling more cards afterwards. So let's just do that. Okay. So this is disrupting my OCD brain right now, just so you know. So, but I can fix it back, so that's fine. Okay, so the crane, which the key words on these cards are dance, meditation, and then tiger, we have willpower, passion, butterfly, transformation, poetry, and wolf, instinct, loyalty. So with that, what first comes up for me, and as I think back to what I had said in my previous video, and I look at it, and besides the even from what I've read in the guidebook, besides the key words dance, meditation, the other things that come up for me is, as I continue to to explore for your spirituality and things like that, and still just keeping myself anchored with my Christianity faith and everything. And we hear a lot about meditation and dance, and the idea of movement being good for our bodies and things like that, right? And our minds. But as a stress reliever and things like that. But based off what I read in the guidebook, if you notice with the crane is in the middle of the water, and it's actually got, I don't know if you can see that in the card, but it also has one leg up, and the guidebook does reference that. And the idea of determination and being steady, right? Steady footing. And so, with that, to me, it goes back to what I talk about when we do shadow work, and having that sort of grounding foundation, that tie as you're diving into the darkness. The idea for, like, okay, for example, scuba divers, right? And people who do diving, when they go to dive, and if they're diving off a boat or whatever, there's something that they have there, whether they're attached to some sort of rope, or some sort of line that sort of anchors them to the boat, so they're not getting lost, right? And that's, to me, what when I talk about anchoring, and I talk about grounding and stuff like that, and historically for me, that's my my Christian faith, that anchors me as I dive into into doing shadow work and free form divination and things like that. It's to keep me centered and focused on on the lighter aspects, right, of spirituality. And to me, that is the religious practices that we depending on our upbringing we have. For me, it's Christianity. For someone else, it could be Judaism, it could be being Muslim, it could be whatever the case may be. To me, that is the anchor. Now, however, like with all things, right, there needs to be a balance, and either side of these things, when you've gone too deep and close yourself off, they can be restricting, right? And to me, that's the divide that we all are in right now. The world is this huge divide between freedom, with everything, right? Spirituality, historically, when I talk about going back into the past of our heritage, and seeing these things, it's not just about honoring it, it's about also seeing the errors of our ways that has been passed down to us, that we've been influenced by, right? And what I've seen, trending, especially in the tarot community, and and free spirituality, in the pagan culture, Wiccan, witchcraft, whatever. Oftentimes, the connections that I've made, what I've seen, a lot of the running stories that I hear is people have been rejected by their religious upbringing. They've not only been rejected, but they've been hurt by it, right? Because, as I said, getting too lost into something and not having a balance, right, it can do more harm than good. So, and I can speak to this personally because, to a certain degree, I've I would say that, I've been it. That's part of why I've walked away, because I've seen a lot of hypocrisy. But even with that, I still hang on to the true parts of it. That to me speak to, what, connectivity and acceptance and love and spirituality is supposed to be about, right? So anyway, so that's the crane. Now with the tiger, as again, sort of talking more again about shadow work, and doing the introspection work for healing, but not only about that, but also, for healing ourselves from the adversities that we've had to face, but also taking stock of what are some of the things that we do that may or may not be conscious, that are contributing to the overall negativity of life, right? And that keep us stuck into these negative karmic cycles, right? And just sort of evaluating over the last few years, how all of that is, has affected society as a whole, right? And not just from, like I said, not just from the individual level, like, self-care and self, but outward as we, continue to grow, because we're not living in this world by ourselves, right? So, it's having the willpower and the passion and the desire to, to do this, to do the introspection work, right? To flow and explore and dance with our emotions, right? And meditate on everything that has occurred, right? And, as we have the butterfly, right? And these being what's necessary for the transformation into from what is dark right now to what, as now we're coming into spring, what's on the horizon, what we can look forward to, what as humanity as a whole, as we as individuals, commit individually to doing the work in time, as the butterfly effect, right? It will trickle out, and true collective transformation can occur, but it has to start with the individual self, right? And again, understanding the ebb and flow and what's within our control and what isn't, right? The only thing that we can control is realistically is ourselves. So it's about as individuals, our commitment to doing that work. And as we commit ourselves to doing that work, we can inspire others to do the same, right? And, being able to, we have the wolf right now, and the instinct and the loyalty, right? Being able to uncover what is, what is false. What are the false information that we've been fed over, X amount of years, going back historically in our family heritage, right? That has sort of altered our perception of what loyalty is, right? That has us questioning our instinct. Yeah? Okay. So now with the Four Swords, so when I got this card, this sort of came out in reverse, but I don't necessarily read reversals, but I won't ever keep it like, upside down. I will put it straight up, but I will be mindful to remember, how things came out and be able to speak on them. So the Four of Swords. And to me, you know, it's all about rest. And, you know, and for those of you who know, you know, rest of the mind, because swords is, you know, is what is attributed to logical thinking and stuff, right? So the idea that it came out in reverse, the idea that action is needed, right? Rest, but unrest, needing that opportunity to, you know, to start making that mental commitment. Next we have the Seven of Pentacles. And so for those of you who know, you know, Pentacles being about sort of tangible items and things like that, whether it be finances, whether it be, you know, our health, whatever. But in this case, you know, the Seven of Pentacles, sort of, you know, we have the tree, right? And I talked about the anchoring, right? And the you know, this one is willpower and the passion, right? So being, you know, being able to, you know, commit, making that commitment and having that willing spirit to commit to doing the work, right? And Two of Wands, right? The butterfly you see here in this card, to me, this looks like someone who's standing, you know, we have two rods, and of course this is sort of where it goes back for me for Christianity. I see this card and the first thing I think of is the Lord is my shepherd, right? There's a part in that prayer that talks about you know, He leaded me on a path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Right? The transformation. The you know, if we can do this, we can commit to anchoring ourselves and diving deep into our past and paying attention to the hypocritical lessons and knowledge that we've been fed over the years, as we've, you know, continued to, you know, ego has continued to drive people, and, you know, and that butterfly effect, right? If we can commit to taking stock and changing those behaviors, we can see this transformation coming. We can expect that to actually occur, right? Wolf, the instinct, loyalty, we have the Magician. The power is within our hands as individuals. We have the power to change, you know, the negativity, but we have to be the ones willing to first make that step. Waiting on somebody else to do it for you is not gonna happen. We have to be the ones as individuals, because again, going back to the idea, we cannot control other people or what is outside of us. But we can control how we act, how we behave, how we respond, right? Taking stock of whether or not the reaction that you're giving to a situation is actually warranted, or if it's based off false information or tainted information that, you know, has occurred because of the trauma that we've experienced and our upbringing and so on and so forth. Okay, so next we have, so these ones are from the Guiding Light Tarot. Well, that's the tarot book, but you can't really tell. Right? I used the Guiding Light Tarot, and now I've got the Black Tarot. So we have the Seven of Wands, right? And to me, this card screams the idea of fighting those those adversities, the sort of the dark and negative thinking, and actions, again, sort of taking stock and standing up for what is actually right, what is just. The fact that internally we all have this light. It exists within us, but it's because of what we've been through that, and what we've been taught that has kept this light so deep within the abyss. And it's through the anchoring and the shadow work that we can begin to draw out this light from deep within ourselves. Bring back that connectivity. We have the Eight of Swords, and here it's it's our own thinking, right? It's the idea, it's that our thinking, it's what, again, all that we've, been taught and experienced that keeps us, the negativity that keeps us stuck, right? Because we've been one way for so long. Some of us are born we're born into this negativity, right? So it's etched within, our DNA, if you will, now at this point. And it's only through the shadow work, only through not just the shadow work of ourselves, but on a global scale, within our businesses, within our communities, right, within our families. Transformation is not something that comes easy, right? Being able to get people to come together, for collective healing isn't always easy. Anybody who's run a meeting or whatever where it involves several people sort of getting together, they know that sometimes that can be very difficult to get everybody on the same page, right? And it's that the idea of sort of passing off that responsibility, because nobody feels that they have the capabilities, but it's there. And when I talk about divided we fall, it's together we stand. It's that community, that sense of community, that support we have for ourselves and for one another, because we see that we are all the same. On the inside, we come from the same source. Ace of Wands. Inspiration. Right? If we, as individuals, can muster the strength, support one another, in doing this work. Right? I talked about the butterfly effect and the rippling, right? It has to start somewhere, and as we do the work, we can inspire other people to do the same. Well, that's to me what the Ace of Wands screams. So now moving on to Tarot of the Abyss. We have, and this deck is very, very beautiful, and the guidebook alone is very, very well done, right? We have the Eight of Pentacles, right? The idea of cycles. And you know, for those of you who again understand tarot and understand the meaning behind the pentacles, but in this case, it being here, to me, sort of goes back to, again, that sort of false foundation that has been created over time as the world has become further and further disconnected, right? There was a cycle. There's a cycle that was created and has been sort of that way, and it's only through the introspection, right? Four of Pentacles, it's what's within. Yes, my OC did this. Here we go. Okay, whatever. But anyways, yes, right? Taking stock of ourselves. What are some of the things we need to let go of that we're holding too tightly onto in the darkness that is preventing us from this forward movement, from this transformation? The Three of Pentacles, right? The idea again about and my light just went off, but anyways, that's okay. Hopefully you can still see. The Three of Pentacles, the idea of collaboration, cooperation, building that sense of community, right? The King of Cups, right? It's through the work that we can then be able to master our emotions, master, how we interact with one another, regularly. And once we can uncover those shadow parts of ourselves that keeps us stuck, that keeps us stuck in this negative cycle of, karmic cycles of life. Once we can master that and our emotions and how we operate from that level, the empathy, it's through that, right, that we are reminded that we are all connected, right? Having that empathy, bringing back that empathy. Okay, so I have here from Bianco Nero, published by US Games. The Three of Swords, right? I talk about, again, that sort of that heartbreak, that negativeness, the darkness, that pain and heartbreak has created for us, right? We think about the swords, and again, the swords being about intellect, right? The pain experienced, we hang on to that pain, in our minds, and it's that we hang on to that keeps us stuck. But as we do the work, we do the shadow work, we uncover, you know, the pain, we can see the you know, the hands of justice turning, or the, you know, it invokes healing, bringing things back into balance, right? There is light at the end of the tunnel. We have the sun, but it's up to us to choose. The power is within our hands. We have to, as individuals, have to be willing to make that first step. So the next deck I have here is the Fantod Pack, and the 4 cards that were drawn from this were the Effigy, the Accorche, if I'm even pronouncing that right, the Ladder, and the Blue Dog. And so, of course, yes, I did read the guidebook and stuff like that, but in this case, you know, sort of, you know, intuitively speaking, to me, this sort of, these cards, to me, again, sort of going into, you know, the idea that we have what looks like a scarecrow, the numbers to look backwards, right? And so facing our shadows, facing the errors of our past, looking at ourselves, you know, and taking stock and responsibility for what we have contributed to this overall downfall in society, right? Being able to look ourselves in the mirror and take responsibility, right? The ghost, our shadows of our past. To me, it's the willingness to be vulnerable. This man, he looks more than naked. He looks like we're seeing no skin and just the muscles underneath, right? So it's the exposure, the willingness to be exposed for all that we are, all that we have been. It's through that and that work that we can, you know, can find ourselves, you know, coming to that ladder that we can use now to climb ourselves out of this darkness and transform into the beauty that, you know, that we were all created from, that we all are. The Blue Dog, well, you know, dog again speaks to loyalty, and I think when I see this card and I think Blue Dog, I'm thinking the once in a blue moon, right? The idea of the if you understand the saying, the blue moon is something, it's a phenomenon. It doesn't come by very often, right? So it's a spectacular sight to see when you are able to see it. But rather than it being something that just happens once in a while, it's through this work, it's through the darkness that we can arrive at the beauty that exists, that in society we hardly ever get to see. That's few and far between, especially nowadays. So next I've got I have the New Era Elements deck in front of me, and the cards that came out is 19, the Sun, 15, the Devil, 7, the Chariot, and Son of Earth. So with that, you know, what I see here is we have, you know, the 19, the Sun, the idea that the cycle, this darkness, this negative sort of karmic cycle that we've been in for such a long time, that has been our sun. That has been what we've known the world to be, especially those of us who, you know, bored into it. The things that we've been, the false information that we've been fed and been taught, that has become what has been our world, our be all and end all. But it's only through the introspection that we can see that this sun is actually false here. Right? It's the devil, you know. True transformation takes strength and commitment, right? You know, and oftentimes while doing, we can often get it, you know, get very discouraged because it is tough. It is tough work to, you know, to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and to really pinpoint the error of our ways, to pinpoint the error of our family history, to pinpoint, right? It's not easy to do, right? And so being mindful that, you know, the addictions of life, the being addicted to the negativity, being addicted to the ego, to self, being addicted, you know, even to, you know, to the everyday things, right? The things that keep us, you know, spiraling down, that we use as coping mechanisms, right? When we can overcome this, and we commit ourselves, the you know, the chariot, it's our willingness to work together to you know, to be in the driver's seat and take control of the reins for the transformation that brings us to here, son of the earth. Well, of course, for me, when I hear son of the earth, I'm already thinking now about the idea of Jesus Christ, right? And what he represented, and, you know, what the representation of that is. And I talk about the beauty and the forward movement, right? The healing. It's through this work and the commitment to doing this that, you know, we can see, we may not be able to see the change within our time, right? The true transformation in our time. But if we start now, it's through our legacies. It's through the following generations. It's through the those of you who have children and who are passing on a legacy. They are the ones that are going to benefit from this change. They're the ones that are going to, you know, be free of all that adversity, you know, that has come before, because of the work, you know, we commit to doing now in the present. So now that I've basically sort of caught you up to what I've pulled so far, I'm actually going to continue, and I have the Inversion Tarot here in a tin by US Games. I'm just going to pull some cards just to finish this. Okay, so just as I am, shuffling the cards and stuff, one of the things that, that was coming up for me even in this reading, and has sort of been an ongoing struggle for me, is as I've been diving into, reading tarot and alternative forms of spirituality, outside of religion and things like that. I think about the negative connotation that has sort of plagued my upbringing about tarot and stuff like that, and as society continues to grow and we see the different trends, right? Tarot has taken the world by storm now, and a lot of people are diving into tarot and using tarot not just traditionally for the idea of fortune telling, right? But as a tool, for introspection and stuff like that. You have a lot more people who are learning the arts of tarot, and reading and stuff like that, and and of course, because you can see there's endless amounts of videos of people showing their decks and things like that online and on YouTube, and a lot of different content creators that are coming out and doing reviews and stuff like that, and I'm seeing how over the years the increase to the tarot community has been. But like with everything has its flaws, and one of the things that that I've come to notice and and have endured as I've been in this new chapter of life and stuff like that, is as great as I'm seeing forward movement with society and being more open to free forms of spirituality and witchcraft and all of these things, right? I'm also seeing, like I said, I think at the beginning of this video, I even talked about, the idea of we have religion, and then we have the free form of spirituality, and how the two are so divided. And I even talk about personally my Christian heritage and stuff like that, and I've seen a lot of folks within the tarot community who have left the church, rightfully so, because of the negativity that was brought. If you didn't adhere to certain rules, then you weren't this idea that you weren't a follower of God. Okay, no, because that's not really how God works. But anyway, right? And the thing is, it's still like that, because I've struggled with that personally within my own family. I've struggled with that with friends. Like I think I may have mentioned before, when I don't really have people in my life that I can really discuss open spirituality like this, in my personal life, and the idea of tarot and things like that, because there's nobody else, who is really in this world. It's really only just me, where that is concerned. So yes, you know, the you know, being a part of the tarot community has, you know, been, you know, a saving grace, if you will, but has also been hurtful too. You know, there has been people, you know, of the tarot community who I have experienced oppression by. I've experienced, you know, hurtful things by, and so it just comes to show you're technically not really safe anywhere, right? Because why? Because we're human beings, and we are influenced by our experiences, right? And this is why I talk about the idea of shadow work and why it is so important. And it's not just important. We're saturated now in society with the idea of self-worth and self-empowerment and self this and self that and da 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 da, right? And that's great as a social worker, right? As you know, as you know, as I've you know, worked in the field of social services, and I've been doing that for, you know, X amount of years, and I'm a mental health advocate and things like that. I'm all about the self-empowerment and things like that, you know, especially those who have been marginalized, those who have, you know, suffered a lot of childhood trauma and things like that. But and this is where to me the importance of shadow work comes in, because it's not just about healing well, it is about healing, but it's not just about, you know, sort of confronting those pains that other people have inflicted on us, right? It's not about just, you know, doing the shadow work for that, to uncover those pains and to heal it. Because if you remember in a previous video, I you know, I think when I was during my mental health discussion that I did this past year, I'll have that link below, with the beloved, you know, Marion and Ruth, the creator of the emotional kaleidoscope deck, and Marion, you know, who's done the Reclaim Oracle. It's not just about taking stock of the pain that we've, you know, been subjected to, but it's also about taking a look at ourselves and about the pain that we have subjected other people to. And that, to me, is what I'm finding is missing a lot with a lot in the tarot community. There's a lot of people who have run away from the hurt and the pain, you know, that has been inflicted upon them. So they've dived into tarot and free spirituality to find healing, only to end up in a situation where now they become the perpetrators without even realizing it. Some do, some don't, right? Some don't care. You know, but it's that keeps the negativity and the karmic cycles going. When we fail to do the shadow work on the things that we are negatively doing, you know, to other people, you know, and I talk about some previous experience. I talked about, you know, the accusation of love bombing and how that affected me and how that hurt me, because I know that's not me. And if we understand the true definition of what that is, you will know that it's about and I go back to the idea that it's not about the practice, it is about the intent. And that intent can be conscious, it can also be subconscious and unconscious, right? So it's when we dive and do the shadow work that we can uncover these things. You know, when I start to look back at some of the things, you know, and we talk about, you know, society, you know, I think about some posts too that I've seen, you know, even on TikTok, that kind of sort of speaks to some, you know, to what I'm talking about right now, and you know, and why it's important to do the shadow work, because I think a lot of people seem to forget too when they're doing this, you know, and they're diving in, and it's all about, you know, the self-healing and the self-worth and, you know, all of that stuff. Well, yes, but remember, you're not just living in this world by yourself, or with your significant other, or your individual family. You're living in a world where so many other families and so many other diverse people exist, right? And so it's also about looking and taking stock of our privileges. When I talk about, you know, the some of the things that I've had to endure, and I really do the shadow work to dive deep into that, I can tell you right now that there has been some commonalities to some of the oppressive situations that I've endured. Even recently, as I've been doing, like I said, as I've been doing this work. And you know, and it's unfortunate, because these are people who I have come across admiring, you know, at first, you know, and who. So it becomes an even more huge disappointment, because it's not just to say that it was done by somebody who, you know, whatever, you know, on the street, who I think nothing of, right? Or I don't give a second thought to. But these are people who have hurt me, that have meant something to me. And whether they're aware of it or not, they didn't do the shadow work, and the enough of the shadow work, I should say, maybe only one half, where selfishly it only really applied to them. But they've dropped the ball in the sense of knowing and doing the shadow work to how their actions have affected another. How their privilege has been oppressive enough in society, they haven't done the shadow work to see that their privilege still holds weight. So to inflict that onto someone else, you know, whether it, like I said, whether it be intentionally or not, that's something to be mindful of. When you don't do that and you take stock, you're unknowingly continuing this negative karmic cycle. All right. Now that rant is over, so the Inversion Tarot. Everything we do should always be anchored in love, because that's how we got here. That's where we come from. So I have the Seven of Pentacles. The Empress. planting the seeds with love, anchoring ourselves with love, and letting that be the driving force that we use to anchor ourselves as we do this work. Strength. We have another strength in the butterfly. Like I said, it's the strength of it's a collective strength. Influencing and uplifting each other. Not just thinking about ourselves. The Magician. The Magician again. Yes, it's within our hands. Are you going to use your power for good, or are you going to use it for evil? And understanding evil really derives from ego, right? The idea that when you step, you're on this scale, and if you step, too far to one side, you're gonna throw off the whole balance. That's the cycle, right? The karmic cycle. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to read the little synopsis, for those of you who, may be watching and aren't that well versed in tarot. So the minor arcana, right? So it lays out what each suit represents. So pentacles. So pentacles, tangible / physical reality, property, money, material things, work, health, practicality, element, earth. We have the Empress. The Empress here represents mother figure, natural woman, nurturing, fertile, abundant, fruitful, enjoying the senses, connection to nature. So some of the, not that it applies in this case because the card did come out upright, but if I was reading the reversal on this, the reversal meaning is unhealthy, smothering, indulge, spoil, coddle, infertile, lacking maternal drive or instinct, disconnected from nature. Right? Strength. Bringing a situation under control without using overt force or aggression. Mindful power. Soft approach, gentle persuasion, calm patience, inner strength, quiet courage, compassion, mastering your own animal impulses, taming the wild side, civilizing. When the Magician. You know what, let me actually before. There's reading strength. The reverse meaning on the strength is meek, submissive, too flexible, willing to tolerate unacceptable behavior in others, afraid of direct confrontation, soft approach, doesn't work. So having a balance, right? Balancing ourselves. For me, my shadow work in learning how to heal some of the negative things in my past is you know, this part here with the strength, here, you know, that's something to, you know, when I talk about the balance, right? Learning the how to counteract the negative, the reverse meanings of this, that, you know, that has been part of my healing journey. One, the Magician. The Magician, manifestation, transforming an idea into something real, skillful, intentional action, full focused attention, individual confidence and power, having all the resources you need, and the skill to use them, using the proper tool for the job. Reverse meaning, improper use of power, manipulation, selfish maneuvers, lacking the necessary skill. Yep. So, yeah. And you know what? That's what I have for you today. I hope that this message finds you well. And based on everything that I've, I've said today, that through this reading, that you would be able to apply the messages, to your own situation, take stock of, some of the things that maybe you are unconsciously doing as a result of, of what you've had to endure, and being able to lovingly, wholeheartedly take stock of that, and being able to rectify those wrongs, make peace with them, forgive them, accept them, and learn how to change what isn't working, change what is no longer serving you, and serving those around you. And that's keeping you stuck and keeping you in this keeping the world, all of us, in this negative karmic cycle. When we can take stock of ourselves, and we can accept ourselves for who we are and love ourselves anyways, we build the capacity to be able to do the same for others. Because in this life, we're not alone, right? There's a sea of us. And we all come from different aspects of life. We've all have, our own burdens to bear. We're all on a different journey. We all have a purpose, and it's about finding that purpose and working collaboratively, together to build a better and brighter future for not only ourselves as individuals, but overall for everyone and for generations to come. Let's change that negative karmic cycle that we've been stuck in for, hundreds of years. Let's take note of the patterns and do the work to try and change them for the better. Because that's really what it's all about. I am love. My name is Alana. Thank you for being here with me today and sharing your love with me and allowing me to share my love with you. And until I chat with you again, don't forget to live, listen, and learn. I love you. If you like my content, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Love you. Bye.
Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. No matter what people want.